Do you remember when Jaden Smith was a little kid and we just kept trying to make him a thing? This is one of those things. I'm Seth and it's day 35 of the Ticket Stub Movie Club. Today's movie, The Day the Earth Stood Still. Question for you, what is your favorite sci-fi movie with a low Rotten Tomatoes score? This one's directed by Scott Derrickson. He is one of my favorite directors working in Hollywood right now. And it stars Keanu Reeves, Jaden Smith, and Jennifer Connelly. I think I'm on a warpath against low Rotten Tomatoes scores right now. We just talked about Madagascar 2, which was criminally underrated. We also talked about Four Christmases, which is really harshly rated on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not great, but it doesn't deserve a 25%. And so today I have another one for you that definitely doesn't deserve all the hate that it gets. My take is that at the time, the push to get Jaden Smith into the spotlight was met with a real quiet racism, something that since then has become louder and louder. It builds up into a fever pitch by the time we get into his Karate Kid movie, and then he just kind of exits Hollywood because people weren't accepting him, and he's a good actor. I also think the deification of the source material kind of sharpened people's pitchforks against this movie from the jump. They weren't willing to take a reinterpretation of the material and instead wanted to be made to feel like they were watching a black and white sci-fi B-movie. As a teen, I was thrilled by this update because we had now a child POV character to give us some range within the storytelling, and my dad had showed me the original as a kid, so I knew and was familiar with what the story could be like. Scott Derrickson's also one of those directors that can make a 4-quadrant movie within a genre. His horror movies usually end up feeling a little MCU and Marvel-like. His sci-fi and action thrillers always have that kind of Spielbergian edge to them. And so as an adult, I really enjoyed some of the more slow burn aspects of this movie. It was really hit hard by the critics for creeping along, but this isn't a movie that needs to fly along the way. It's actually trying to say something, and you have to sit for a minute if you want to have nuance. All right, team, let's get into it. The Day the Earth Stood, as my it just says Earth Stood on my ticket stub. I think that's funny. Long titles in the mid-aughts was a thing. One of my favorite bands, Fall Out Boy, used to have incredibly overly long titles for their songs. Movies have exceptionally long titles at this time. I like that as a stylization thing. I think sometimes it can work really, really well. It just doesn't work great when you're printing a ticket stub and you'll just condense things down to Earth Stood. Did the Earth stand in this movie ends up being the question, though. It's not Scott Derrickson's best, I'll put it that way. He has definitely progressed as a filmmaker. His recent movie on Apple TV, The Gorge, ended up really impressing me on a lot of levels. It's not the horror movie that the trailers would like you to see it as, and I know directors don't always get a say in what the trailers are like, so I won't hold that against him. It's basically a sci-fi Pirates of the Caribbean date movie. That's a lot closer to what's presented in the film, and so I was kind of surprised to be watching a action thriller horror that had a love story I was genuinely invested in. The movie takes the time to develop that. Those are the kind of skills that you learn from making movies like The Day the Earth Stood Still, which is a film that is really interested in talking about the Earth in 2008, the way that we were talking about it. Al Gore is getting absolutely dragged in media. I'm thinking South Park, I'm thinking the news, as he's talking about climate change, and people are straight up denying it at the time. Here we are in 2025, and 99.99999 scientists agree that the Earth is dying mostly because of humans, mostly because of America, and this movie is a movie that is keyed in on that in 2008. Just for that, it's a little bit prophetic, if you ask me. This is also during Keanu Reeves' in-between time. So he's got The Matrix. The Matrix goes huge. He had a bunch of other successful movies before that with things like Point Break. But then we hit the CGI aughts era, and Keanu Reeves ends up in like really hit or miss stuff. You've got Constantine, which was pretty good. You've got this movie, which is okay. You've got a bunch of his like stinkier movies that just don't do so well. And so this is before the Keanu-sance. John Wick really like relaunched him as now an older, more mature actor, and everything he's doing since then, he's just having fun with. Keanu Reeves is one of those guys that's just doing the side quests at this point because he had The Matrix. How do you top The Matrix? Then you add in a really cool surrounding cast. John Hamm is here before he's like really big and famous. This is early in like the Mad Men era, and he's one of those actors that's also going to have a huge takeoff as he hits his like more matured era. And then on the opposite end of that, Jaden Smith is here. We really wanted Jaden Smith to be a thing for a minute, whether that's what he wanted or what his dad wanted or what Hollywood wanted, I don't know, but I just know we were putting him in a lot of stuff and putting him in heavy stuff where he really had to show up to act. This movie does not hold back on what it asks of this little character. I think some of the things could have been explored a little bit more. Honestly, this is a movie that I would have taken like a 2.5-hour slow Ridley Scott style director's cut of just to develop some of the more character beats. In the opening, I mentioned the Spielbergian influences on Derrickson, and those are always obvious, but I think about movies like Jurassic Park and how it'll take time to put characters up a tree just to develop them. That's not something this movie's willing to take the time to do because it's presenting this like forward-paced thriller where like the Earth is gonna end, that's as big as the stakes can get. But this movie's not really about the Earth ending quickly, and it's really more about how to slow that to a point that we could even rise above the issues that we've caused on our planet. That is a cool presentation, but when you stuff that into a CGI-heavy sci-fi thriller where the trailers are presenting something closer to a 2012 or a Roland Emmerich style story. Remember, we just talked about 10,000 BC a couple movies ago. So this is something that's big on our plates at the time. Independence Day with Will Smith, that's obviously a little bit of influence here. So the movie's kind of at odds with itself, and I think that's why it ended up really being not remembered or carried through. But these are the kind of movies that I like. I enjoy a movie that wants to split its time between a big idea and a small idea, a huge stakes and really interesting small character stuff. I also want to shout out Derrickson specifically mentioning that the more fascist ideas from the original were things that he wanted to pull out. And I think it ends up giving this movie a real heart for humanity. And that's the through line for Keanu Reeves' character. I like that he ID'd that and pulled it through. This is an actor that gets the vision of their director. This is a director that loves that the actor gets it. And so they're really working in tandem with each other. I saw one of the critic reviews said that this movie is boring for having Keanu Reeves in the lead and mentions him being boring in The Matrix. I'm sorry. What? Did you not understand what is going on? He's a blank face on purpose to teach people the lesson in The Matrix. If that's the idea there, then our director here is probably wanting to pull that through and put that face now onto an alien and say, instead of trying to characterize another alien race, we're going to humanize another alien race and let you be the alien in this situation, showing up with all the power and ability to decide, does the Earth continue or does the Earth not continue? That's a big thing to ask of a protagonist, to ask of an actor, to ask of a main character. And so I'm really impressed that this movie's willing to put the balls to the wall like that. We can talk effects if you want to talk effects. I know the growing pains of the CGI of this time can be up when we talk about things like Pirates of the Caribbean, which had really excellent CGI. This movie CGI is pretty okay. Honestly, some of the CGI heavy moments, especially against the military, I can kind of go without. There's no real stakes to them until our main characters get introduced into all that. And so it really just is there to give disaster set pieces for the trailer. I hate to be the A24 guy, but I feel like an A24 update of this movie would go hard by not making it a disaster piece and instead focusing in on what would happen if the fate of the Earth were up to one alien and it's his interaction with a single family that decides all of that. That's an idea that we've seen in movies before, and so I like that it's presented in a big blockbuster way here. For all of my Film Rescue fans, yes, Kyle Chandler is here. Yes, this is part of the early edition cinematic universe. He was also in King Kong, which I forgot entirely to shout out. So we've seen a couple Kyle Chandler roles so far. He's also going to be in Lanterns coming up this year in our current 2025. So I'm really excited for the Kyle Chandler renaissance. He's one of those actors that I've just loved ever since I was a kid. I was raised on the show Early Edition. If there's anyone out there that would greenlight a low-budget indie Early Edition spiritual successor movie, I have the pitch. I am ready to go with it. I get it, that's probably way too niche to go for terrestrial TV, Chicago-based storytelling. Maybe I'm the only Early Edition fan out here anymore. But a newspaper that tells the future is a great setup, especially if you want to not outdate your movie too quickly and set it sometime in the 90s. That's enough about Kyle Chandler, and I think that's enough for this video. I've cranked 3 of these out today because I took the week off readjusting to getting here to Korea. Annyeonghaseyo, I'm really happy to be here. Gamsamnida for all of your support. If you want to join the Ticket Stub Movie Club and talk about Jaden Smith or Keanu Reeves or our boy Kyle Chandler, I would love to chat with you over there. I also go live on TikTok and Twitch while I'm editing, so we can talk in real time as I'm making these videos for y'all. Definitely check out all my socials where I'm posting my adventures here in Incheon and Seoul and Busan eventually when we head that way. We're just kind of doing a little Asian tour. So you got movie content, you got travel content, we got all the content. Go support over on the Patreon. I would really appreciate it. Our next movie is a Jim Carrey comedy, Yes Man, a movie that absolutely changed my life so much that I'm sitting in this room in Korea right now. I'll see you tomorrow.